I tried matcha mixed with coffee for the first time last year, and I was surprised by how well the flavors go together. It's hard to describe, but the matcha almost makes the coffee taste richer. And I also think that the combo takes on a sort of chocolatey flavor. So in my opinion, this iced matcha latte is a must-try for matcha and coffee lovers alike. And thankfully, it's a pretty simple recipe that only requires 6 ingredients. 2 teaspoons of good quality matcha powder. I'll talk more about brands and matcha quality in a bit, but I definitely recommend going for a higher quality matcha powder here. If you cheap out, this drink will not taste good. Matcha isn't really like pizza, like any quality of matcha will taste good. In my opinion, you really do have to go for the good stuff. Also, you want to look for a pure matcha powder, not a pre-sweetened matcha mix. 2 teaspoons of sugar. You can use whatever sweetener you want in this drink or even leave it out entirely. I like cane sugar because it's a nice neutral flavor and it allows the flavors of the matcha and the coffee to shine. But you could totally use maple syrup, honey, simple syrup, vanilla syrup, etc. And of course you can also adjust the sweetness level to your personal preferences. I would say that this recipe is a medium-high amount of sweetness. 4 tablespoons of water. There's no need to use warm water here. Room temperature or cold water will work just fine. 1/4 cup of milk. I personally like to use whole milk in this recipe. Feel free to experiment with your favorite plant-based milk. But when going for a plant-based milk, I tend to prefer oat milk over a coconut milk or almond milk, but if those are your favorite, then go ahead and use those. 1/4 cup of cream. I personally like this drink to be nice and creamy and rich, but feel free to substitute with more milk if you prefer. 1 shot of espresso. The original Starbucks version of this drink features espresso for the coffee, and I think that pairs really well here. But you could also substitute about 2 tablespoons of really strongly brewed coffee if you don't have a way to make espresso. I'll discuss this more in a bit. By the way, these amounts make approximately a 12-ounce drink. I'll include measurements for a 16-ounce drink as well in the description. Okay, let's go a little more in depth about the best matcha powder for this recipe. There are so many matcha powders on the market these days, but not all matcha is created equal. Here's a quick overview of the different grades or qualities of matcha powder available. Culinary grade is the lowest grade of matcha powder, and it's also the most affordable. It tends to have a more bitter flavor, and it's a duller green color. The next step up is latte grade. Of course, it's a higher quality than culinary grade, and it tends to have a less bitter flavor and a brighter green color. Keep in mind that there isn't an official definition of latte grade matcha, so each brand can determine what that means. For some brands, this means it's still the spring harvest, but they harvest the leaves lower down on the plant. And finally, ceremonial grade is the most expensive grade of matcha, but it's also the highest quality and it tastes the best in my opinion. Ceremonial matcha has a vibrant green color and is typically much less bitter than the other grades. The flavor notes can vary from brand to brand, with some leaning more sweet and some more savory. Now there are different and more grades of matcha in different countries, but these are the 3 main ones available in the US. I have an entire video where I blind taste tested 14 different brands of matcha powder, so make sure to check that out for the full details. But if you're looking for a quick recommendation, I like the Thrive Market ceremonial grade and the Encha ceremonial grade. Now, if you don't own an espresso machine, don't fret. You can make approximately espresso strength coffee with either a mocha pot, AeroPress, French press, or even instant coffee. Make sure to check out my video tutorial for the full instructions. Okay, back to making the matcha coffee. The very first step is to measure the matcha powder and sugar or sweetener of choice into a small bowl. I like to use a spouted bowl because then it's easier to pour it into your glass later on. Pour 4 tablespoons of water on top of the matcha and sugar in the bowl. Using a bamboo whisk, whisk the matcha and water mixture until completely smooth. This usually takes around 20 to 30 seconds. See how the matcha gets a bit foamy? Now pour that smooth matcha mixture into a 12-ounce glass. If you own an electric handheld milk frother, you can simply place the matcha, sugar, and water in your glass and blend until smooth. Now add about 2/3 to 3/4 cup of ice cubes to the glass. You want your glass about 2/3 full at this point. Add your milk of choice and cream on top of the ice cubes. Finally, slowly pour the hot espresso or strong regular coffee on top of the milk layer. I mean, isn't that just lovely? Now let's talk about how this drink originated. I'm sure people have been combining matcha and coffee for forever, but this particular drink was popularized by Starbucks in Asia. Starbucks called it a Matcha Espresso Fusion, which is such a fun name. Sadly, it's not available on the US menu at Starbucks, but you can order a custom drink that's basically the same. In fact, you should be able to order this drink at most coffee shops. Simply ask for an iced matcha matcha latte with a shot or two of espresso added. If you want that beautiful layered look, you'll have to ask the barista to make the drink in a specific order. I'm personally too shy to ask coffee shop workers to make the drink in a particular way, but maybe you're braver than I am. Alright, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and here's that blind matcha taste test where I tried out 14 different popular brands. I was surprised by how well the flavors go together. Gosh. But this particular drink was popular, and make sure to check out my blind